Stop share. Oh, here we go. Okay. That's fine. She's in the waiting room, as is. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'll just give it another minute to get all our people in.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Vivek. How are you?
Good. Hi, Ray. How are you, sir?
Hey, Vivek.
Good morning.
Good
Hi
morning,
there.
user 5.
I did.
I'm just going to send Bob a quick reminder. Sometimes he's doing other things at work. Ray, are you hearing us better this time?
Yeah, I'm on my laptop rather than tablet, so much better.
Good.
I have too many toys.
Here is our next person.
There he is.
There he is.
I am.
Okay. I can do two things for you. I can share our agenda, and I can also share the script, Bob, if you need it. I know you were sent it to by Erica today. Just let me know if you need it.
Yeah.
So this is regular session, and I'll let you take that from here to start it up. And when you're ready for the packet, just let me know. I'll pop that up there.
Okay. All right. Let me get in here.
We can't see you, Bob.
Welcome,
No,
Patty,
I'm
our
just-
newest member.
you expand the screen and then it jumps over. Hold on. I gotta read this. I'm trying to do it so I can see the script.
Yep. Do you want to see it on the screen?
Yeah, see it on the screen so I can just read it.
Oh, sure. Can you see it now?
There it is.
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognize the importance of hearing public comments at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall set their name and address prior to speaking. It's the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comments or discussion. This meeting is being recorded. All right, I'd ask any members participating remotely state their name. So I know Ray, Susan.
Yes.
Is Vivek on? I can't see.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Is there any other participants?
Patty Molino.
Oh, Patty. Hi,
Yeah.
welcome, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you for offering, by the way. And I apologize that when you were you first offered, we said the same thing you did. You were just smarter than us. I'm sorry. So it was funny. So I apologize. I didn't get onto that earlier. But welcome to the group.
Thank you.
If you see me jumping off of sharing my screen, it's simply because this is the beginning of the meeting and I can't see the waiters in the waiting room when I'm sharing my screen. So don't worry, I'll be back.
Yep.
And I'm going to pop you over to the regular session packet now.
Okay.
Bob, if you would like.
Yes, please.
Okay. And I think just to jump back and forth here for a minute, the first thing was to develop interview questions.
Yep.
And now I'm on the packet. When asked by all of you, I just feel like I need to give you a little backdrop on these documents. This was suggested by legal to try to get you the ability to have some non-publicized questions. So this was their suggestion. We put it in this little template to show you what that would look like. I will scroll back to this, but they also gave us categories to say might be categories. I just shaded those out because we don't need to fill them in. It was just to merely show you the categories they may have suggested and how that situation would work if you chose to do that kind of thing. And we'll go back to this. And then I had researched the questions that were used in 22, given you some sample interview questions that Mike helped me out with regarding large utility hiring, and some questions that were used in 2003. The only one that I changed in the 2003 one, I just put a little buffer around it to make sure it was really affiliated with the job needs when you ask someone if they're willing to move. And I did that solely because I just wanted to make sure whatever questions I was giving you were
Yeah, no, because that did not seem like a 2003 question.
yeah,
Not
it
would not-
wasn't. That was the only one. You found me out. But I just didn't want to give you a question that I didn't feel comfortable with you using with the laws as they are today. So I tweaked that one a little bit. So I'll put you back here, and Bob, all yours.
Okay. Susan, can you just put it on the screen?
Oh, do I not have it on the screen? I'm
No.
sorry.
No,
Hang
just
on
you.
just one second.
Okay, so we're going down through as we're looking at this. Just like I would say, you have a template, right? It's great. You have questions. As with the general manager, you take notes as a participant in this committee, right? Those are your notes, right? You don't have to turn those notes in on each one of the candidates, but whatever, as we go down, we ask.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. But as you go down through, as long as we're asking questions from that pool, Susan, if we have questions in the pool and they've been publicly advertised, I don't think we have to ask everybody the same questions. But in general, I think as a practice, you want to see how people respond. But we can ask. I think we can vary, correct, if we publicize them.
I'm under the understanding that you have to ask the same questions to each candidate.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. It's a good question to ask because once we publicize them, I don't think it really matters what we ask. But we'll have to see. Any opinion?
I can
from
do
the
a little more research on that if you want.
Yeah, but does anybody in the group have a thought about that?
I mean, I guess the idea of having everyone respond to the same set of questions is a reason we're asking the question, and so we can compare answers in terms of the candidate. But not every question we might come up with is applicable to every candidate. So I can see both sides of that. But I can see where we would have a question and then which we would publicize, that it is broad, but then in terms of the answer, we may have a follow-up which we couldn't publicize because we wouldn't know what the follow-up is. So as we did last time, if we each go around and ask a question, the opportunity to follow up on that would obviously be not a publicly pre-informed question because it depends on the response.
Right. And I would say in an interview, you're there to get attitude and aptitude, right? And that you're trying to know the candidate And sometimes you have to dig a little deeper in order to get that, that experience from them. Okay. So I think if we can you scroll down a little bit, Susan, please? So stop right there. These are the sample question categories. I don't think we don't have to. I don't know if I would fill this out. I would just say we haven't categorized the questions into these categories. So maybe as an interviewer, right, you could put whatever category you believe that the question is satisfying, right? So if you scroll down, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
So right there. Question one, when's the time you made it happen to complete an urgent task, right, to deliver results? What challenge did you have to overcome? Would you relate it to being the GM? Point of that question is, right, tell me your biggest big accomplishment. Did you have a major outage somewhere that you had to deal with, that you had no resources to handle, like Paul had mentioned that in his interview. Is there something that COVID type situation? Those are good. How did you handle that? If you have a union workforce and they didn't want to come in, and you have a 24/7 operation, how did you make it happen? Right? Those are types. That's a good question to get that format. I don't know, Susan, if you were going to relate it to something above. I don't know how that template would tie in.
So I think that I want to be clear about the template. I think what legal is assuming is that you're going to come away with like 7 questions or 8 questions like you did in 2022, which is this sheet right here. This was 2022 for the GM search. These are the questions they asked. They're also saying you could, in addition to that base of questions you decide on, pick questions, and they suggested that the way to assign them without knowing what the question was to use a category. So I don't think we have to place these in a category. All we'd have to really do is kind of, people would know what these are. So don't do something that replicates these. If you were using these hypothetically, if you were using these 7 as your main base questions, and then we were assigning each of you maybe 2 others that fell into some discipline that we chose for you, whatever that was, finance and accounting or whatever. And then you would just make sure that none of your questions overlapped these, and you would bring them, and then they would be non-public, before going into the interview process. I think that was the intent of the worksheet. Bob, I hope that makes it clearer, because these 7 really, I gave you a lot of stuff here. I didn't need to give you so much, but I was trying to give you some options. This was the script in 22.
Yep.
It might very well be the perfect script in 25, and you may use it again. What I was trying to give you with this section up here is just a way to add a couple of questions that were not going to be shared in public, that could be potentially, categorized so that they could be assigned. Like, hey, Vivek, find us something about emergency response, and bring that back to the table. That way you might have 6 questions from the 3 of you that wouldn't be already known. And all of the rest of this is just, this was sent out in 22. It may be meaningful to you, it may be not. And these were just others that were current in today's kind of internet world. And these were the 2003 that I brought back. May not be needed, don't want to burden you too much with information. I think the most important piece here is really probably this one, which you just used in 22.
Okay.
So Susan, just a question about process here. So you're saying there's 7 questions or some number of questions that are public.
Yeah.
And then there's categories that each of us could have developed questions that are not public, that we would then ask the same question of all candidates.
True. And you would not, each of you would pick from your assigned category, in line with your assigned category, whatever that question was, and you would not talk about it with any other members. And that is the way to not violate open meeting law and to have questions that are not public
Okay,
questions.
so in a public setting, you would discuss the category that is being assigned to one of us, but
Right.
but we would then formulate a question that we would then ask the same question of all candidates.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's if the board chooses to do that. We're not saying that you have to do that. You could simply do the 7 or 8 questions that are public and leave it at that. It is up to you.
And what is the process on follow-up questions? Can follow-up questions be spontaneous questions? Because that's the value of a
Yes.
follow-up question.
Yes,
I say yes to that. Yes. I mean, if it begs another question to get to the root of what you're needing for an answer, then I would say yes. I would
But
do a
the
follow-up
follow-up
question.
question is not necessarily relevant to all candidates.
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because yes. Sorry, Bob. I should let you answer that.
No, Vivek, that's the whole point, right? You're trying to get someone to expound on something, and you got a question you're following up. You're trying to go down that vein.
No. I'm just trying to do all of this on the context of open meeting law, right? So
Yeah.
it just complicates it for us. But so I think Susan, we just need to be clear that we may not ask the same question of all candidates because it's a follow-up question. So, right?
Yeah, if it's because it's going to be relational to what they say to you, and everyone is a unique person with unique experience, and you may need to know more about that to fully understand their experience. So follow-up questions are going to be a little different. Obviously, we want to be mindful, that follow-up questions are not super difficult for one person. We have them do a mathematical equation and the next person we don't, But short of that, I would follow the lead of, the information you're seeking, and I would ask the follow-up question.
So if we call it a follow-up question, you're saying this is a follow-up question, and
Yeah.
so then
Mhm.
then it's flagged as being something that's fine by open meeting law.
Okay.
Yeah, the open meeting law really doesn't discuss it, but I think that's just the general idea of interviewing people. You're gonna try to get the information you need to make the right hire.
So, so we go down through these questions. If we went to question 1, I like question 1. As you know, I think it's asking someone, tell me a positive thing and tell you how you did it and how you delivered it, right? I think that's a good question. I'd like to keep question 1. Question 2, that is what do you see as as one of the 2 major challenges? We should really change that. That's RMLD. You should say it should be more that the municipal utilities, face, and how would you address these challenges? Right now you have state mandated targets that you have to meet. I'm not going to feed this to them, but they should be able to answer that. They should be understanding, how are they going to make that possible? So I'd like to reword that. And whatever they see as the challenges, balancing how much ratepayers have to pay to meet decarbonization costs. I'd like to hear a response, something similar to that. Or, if somebody has a different idea, that's fine. But I would just change that slightly, Susan.
Okay. Any other input on that from anyone else, or?
No, I like the question that you're making it broad instead of RMLD. To me, we care about RMLD. I really don't care what you would do for another utility, but that's fine. The wording will get us to the same place.
Okay.
So,
Are you gonna?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you were going to go down through the list, or.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So question 3, I want to change. Describe your day at your current job. That's more what I'd like to ask is a very specific question surrounding union management, union contract negotiations, right? It's very, very important that the general manager understands that probably one of the toughest things you do as a general manager. And what is your approach? What is your mindset? We need a question that is going to open up a discussion regarding union and management negotiations, right? They can be very contentious. They can result in all sorts of different things. Right now RMLD is in the middle of 3 of them, right? And they're overdue. So it's going to become one of the critical items for the next general manager. So I want to formulate a question that's going to extract a response out of them, and I want it to be a very, if the right word is, emotional response. We really have to dig in on that and how this new GM would handle those negotiations. That's probably the most I think one of our most imperative things for this next general manager, because that it has to get done.
So I would shape a question like I would give him the premise. So RMLD is a union-run utility. Explain your experience in working with union organizations, contract negotiations, and then operation post-contract or something like that.
Yep. But yeah,
And
maybe
because actually, then questions 4 and 5 to some extent cover some of those aspects. But yeah,
no, you really have to dig in on their skills and their that person's mindset and how they're going to do it. I like the way you started. RMLD is a union-based organization. Currently RMLD is in contract negotiations with its union workforce. Please describe your philosophy and experience in dealing with contract negotiations that may require remediation, because that's exactly where we're at.
yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, I think
Did you get that chance?
Bob, might I point one thing out as well? It's just, I think, important as you go through this, depending on the candidate pool, obviously. You may have a lot of people with this type of experience and you may not. And I want everybody to just consider, we do use outside counsel. They are involved at every meeting. There is a scenario where someone can be supported in a way that they need to be. And I think part of that question, maybe, Bob, could be finding out how much support they think they would need to be effective in that role, because it is supported by legal.
Yeah, no, it is, but yeah, it's driven by right, and whomever that may be. So that is true. You get support. Someone's with you, but I think that's a big portion, right? And I think it's very, very important that they be able to answer that, and that they come in and say, I don't know, but how to do it. But as long as they're able to answer the question, say, all right, I'll use the resources that I can find, right? But okay, so then if you could change that question like that, Susan, if you could come back to us, that would be great.
Sure.
Replace question 3. Question 4, talent acquisition, inspire you and all employees to ensure that they follow values and as work as a team. What steps will you follow to ensure the best hires fill vacancies? How do you incentivize talent to stay? So that, more of an HR question. It's multi-layered. but you know, you're trying to make sure, and again, we're 95% union based organization. I don't know if we want to keep this question per se or change it out. It's more of a talent recruitment, which is what you do, Susan.
Yes. Hmm. And I see what you're saying, because the limitations within union contracts, you can have the greatest ideas in the world, and if they don't abide by the union contract, you're not doing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this
But
could be a question.
but retaining staff, Bob, has been a big issue, right? Till recently.
I think firing staff was a big issue, Vivek. So, so I think this talent acquisition. I mean, we can keep it if we'd like, but I'm open to rewording this if, based on everyone's input.
I
How
think we've
would you-
got multiple, I think we have multiple questions in here, and I think some of them are redundant, but I think the premise is getting good people and keeping good people is important. And so that's the premise. First sentence is a statement, which is fine. And the second statement is really talking about team building, and I don't know how that is limited by union contracts. So the last question I think is redundant. I don't think we need that question at all. And maybe the middle question there can be modified, but I think the essence if I see it is team building. There's been a lot of disruption, I think, and having someone come in and ask the question, how are you going to build a team, keep talent, and make people feel comfortable here is a valid one.
So actually, if you don't mind, Patty, I'd like to get your thoughts on what would be a good question here for
question 4.
Yeah.
or these kind of questions. Yeah.
Well, I like the first statement and I like the second question. And I think, I don't know, you could modify, like, I don't think we need to fill vacancies. I don't think that's important right now. Or how do you incentivize talents to stay? Because if you're talking about how do you inspire your employees to ensure they feel valued, I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll focus this question. I'll draft a new one if you want, with more of an eye towards team building and making employees feel valued and how someone new is going to do those things.
Yeah, I think the first 2 sentences get close to that. Taking Patty's input, just maybe the second 2 questions may not be as important.
Yeah. So just can the second half of the keep the first 2 statements, can the second 2 statements. Easy enough. All right. Question 5. How do you affect the culture change in an organization? How do you see the relationship between the GM and a healthy company culture? How can you use the Board of Commissioners support a positive company culture within the 4 towns serviced by the RMLD? I like that question because it kind of gets into the team building aspect, and that, you know, what is the GM's plan for moving the organization forward, right? So I would opt to keep this question. I wouldn't have any input on that.
Yeah, while I agree with your comment, Bob, I think this question is a little bit confused in terms of, in part, there's a question about the GM leading the company culture, but then there's also the question of relationship with the Board of Commissioners and the 4 towns. So are we trying to get to how does the GM work with the Board of Commissioners and the CAB to build the culture? Or I feel like this two directions here, and while I would like to see him or her, the candidate, have an answer for it, I'm a little confused by the question.
And it starts off by talking about culture change. And, the question is, maybe the culture doesn't need to be changed. So, you don't necessarily have to suppose that you need a culture change in any organization just because you have a new person coming in.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, take the word, we'll strike the word change.
Yeah.
Culture in an
So how
organization.
do you influence culture in an organization? I think that's a better question.
Yep, I agree. And then, how do you see the relationship with GM and a healthy company, a GM? And I think the second part was to see, what's kind of your philosophy? I say you do. Is it collaborative? Is it I'm a very team oriented person. I like a group think, and that I'm autonomous. I let people do their jobs, and I talk to the directors. Yeah, I want to have some understanding of what their management style is, and then also what's going to be your interaction with the board of commissioners. Are they going to be willing to take direction from the board of commissioners? Right. That's a very in the CAB. That's an important part of the job.
Yeah, I accept Bud's edit to the first question. I would suggest we drop the middle question and just go right into how can the Board of Commissioners support company change with, and I would include the commissioners and the CAB to support property culture change.
Yeah.
Rephrase it differently. But yeah, just those two questions. I think the middle one is where my confusion was coming from.
Okay.
Can I get clarity on how would the Board of Commissioners and the CAB support company culture, change in company culture, positive influence in company culture? But where does that 4 towns piece come in, and how do you see, what question are you asking there?
And the CAB.
Yes, and the CAB I have, but I guess I'm sort of looking at the culture question as internal, external. What is external company culture toward 4 towns look like?
Well,
I'm trying to figure out what activity we're talking about there.
Well, I think we're internal. I don't think we are external. I don't think that we're talking here about, I think that the 4 towns serviced by RMLD is an awkward reference to the CAB.
Yeah, no, but Bob, I think, Ray, I think when you're supporting 4 towns, basically you're saying you're supporting your customers wherever they are, right? So
that's a different question, though. So I think
So my point is that I think you could just say, how can the Board of Commissioners and CAB support a positive culture?
Correct.
Just at that. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you don't need to need the extra words on that.
Yeah.
Correct. And I mean, there may be a question about how we want RMLD to interact with its customers and the towns, but that's a different question.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the question we want to ask there, right?
Well,
how we interact with, how do you plan to interact with the Board of Commissioners, the CAB, and the 4 towns served by the RMLD? What is your plan of action, right? Maybe.
No, I think I disagree there, Bob. I don't want to. The representative of the 4 towns for this question to build company culture is through the CAB. There'd be another question in terms of outreach and beyond. That's not this question.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question can be, how can the Board of Commissioners and CAB support a positive company culture? Stop right there.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next one. Question 6 is, in a managerial role, we must do tough things. Tell us about a terrible situation. Tell us about terrible situations. Yeah, okay, which is fine. What unpopular decisions did you have to make? Explain the situations in detail and how you dealt with them. Right? Okay. We're, you know,
I'm okay with that.
Yep. Okay. Whatever that scenario comes up, whether it's, you know, I gotta keep people on board, cancel vacations. I gotta tell you, you know, you're working for free. You know, it's whatever, you know, whatever it is, you know, there's a million, I gotta let you go. I gotta downsize, you know, we've gotta, you know, terrible, terrible things. I've got to, you know, change the price. I got to cut the contract, right? Whatever it is, you know, you want to hear about those and how painful it is. You want to hear about good things, but at the same time, you want to get, how do you handle adversity, right? Because jobs have adversity and they all do. And you want to know how was it handled? Was it handled professionally? Was it handled promptly? Was it handled, you know, okay, you got to do what you have to do, and the decision was made, and you execute that decision. You know, those are very important things. And then, is everybody okay with that question?
Yeah, I like the question. It would be interesting to see how candidates respond. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I like the spirit of the question, Bob. The only thing is, I'm just sensitive to the word terrible situations. I would just say, tell us about difficult situations.
Okay, that's a good one. That's okay. That fine. Edit Vivek.
Difficult instead of terrible. Okay, got it.
And then the last question is basically sell yourself, right? And I think it's important for someone to come out and tell you why they believe that they are the best candidate for the job. And there's, you know, some narrative behind it. And, you know, not say just cause, right? What, you know, I mean, you need some reasoning why you believe that you have that self-confidence to, you know, have this position. So I do like that question. I don't know about you folks, if it's a yay or a nay.
No, I like that question too. It tells us what the person believes is their strongest point. Now, we may agree that that strong point may not be the one that's most important to us, but I'd like to hear what they feel is their main strength.
No, it's a good question. I always like to have such questions included. Yeah.
Okay. Now, would there be any other questions? I don't know, Patty or Ray, Vivek, with anything else you would think you would want to include in, like, I would call the main body of questions?
Patty?
No, I'm good. I like this set of questions. I think you're going to dig deep enough.
Okay. So Bob, the way I looked at this was like, rather than looking at these 7 questions, like there were certain ways I would cover my interview.
Okay.
And one thing, if I'm looking at these questions, one thing I don't think we are spending enough time on is domain knowledge.
Okay.
So I'm just raising that as a flag.
Yeah. Yep.
Because, you know, maybe the last question addresses it. But, you know, what do you really know about this business? It's not like, what are the challenges facing the thing? What do you know about the business? And that is something that should come out. I don't know how to answer that question. So the way if you can humor me, you know, the way I would categorize questions rather than these 7 ways would be, how do we explore domain knowledge? Then the next one is, how do they manage people? How do they, the second other area is how do they manage operations and budgets?
Oh, yeah.
How do they deal with surprises and challenges? And so some of that is covered, but so, there's too many questions on people and not on some of these other things. So,
Excellent. I love it. So when we come in at the very beginning, I think the most important thing, to your point, Vivek, is tell me about you and your work experience, right? We should be able to.
yeah, tell me about yourself. What is it about you that we need to know?
Yeah, tell me about your work experience and as it would relate to the municipal public power environment.
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's a statement, Susan, that we could add at the very beginning.
Yep. That's very often the way we start an interview is tell us about yourself and how you got here kind of thing. But I like your public power and utility
we may
experience.
get applications from people who don't have public power experience.
Yep. Okay.
Vivek, oh, sorry, Susan.
That's okay. No, I'm good.
Vivek, I also liked your statement regarding budget building, and operations. What we should have a budgetary / operational type question. How do you see, what is your skill set, when it comes to
No. So that's why I could repeat the questions if you want. Domain knowledge is the first one, right?
Yep.
Then this next one is how do you manage operations and budgets? How do you manage people? Then how do you deal with surprises and challenges?
Yep. So we should. No, we're going to have a union-based question, a union negotiation.
No, absolutely. No, so you'll have a union-based, but it could be under that. So it's like a follow-up. So like the operations category will be operations questions. Managing people would be how do you deal with unions? How do you deal with motivation? All those, those are all subcategories of managing people.
Yep.
Yeah. So the way I react to Vivek's questions is he has 4 questions, 2 of which the last 2 I think we have addressed in these 7 questions. But I think the question of managing budget, and I'm almost willing to accept exactly how Vivek phrased it, manage operations and budgets should be, could be added to this base of questions almost as he read it. Read that second one again, Vivek.
So the first question was domain knowledge.
No, second one was second question.
Second was how do you manage operations and budgets? I mean, that's where you can explore reliability, safety.
Yeah. So I would like to build that up. Yeah, I like that. I would just. Yes, I like that question. Maybe we can expand on it a little bit, but I would like to add something like that to this list of 7.
Yeah, well, we got rid of question 3 anyway. Describe your typical workday.
Yeah.
Why don't we put it in there?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm creating categories, right? So like you have 4 and 5 here are like how you manage people.
Mm-hmm.
So those come under managing people,
mm-hmm.
right? So domain and question 1 and 2 address the domain knowledge, right? Like, sorry, question 1 is like, tell me about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about yourself and what do you know about utilities, right? I mean, that's really domain knowledge.
Yeah. So I agree. Let's swap out the question 3 that we dropped and put in a question about how do you manage operations and budget in a challenging energy
dynamic
dynamic
energy
dynamic. Yeah.
Dynamic.
Our biggest
as a follow-up, there could be questions related to peak load management and all those kind of things.
Well, that would be his response. Yeah, absolutely. Or ought to be his response. Yeah.
Dynamic energy environment,
Yeah.
In industry.
industry.
Okay. Energy, environment, industry,
Either one. You know,
either
Okay.
one. Yeah. Any word.
Can I ask one question of the chair? Bob, are you considering, so just so I'm clear, if we add questions to this, that's an opportunity to do the non-public questions? Are we going away from that and just doing all the questions publicly? I just want us to be thinking about that as we discuss those other, because we are categorizing them right now, sort of saying that these are on finance and budgeting, and these might be on, skill set, beyond, expertise, technical expertise. Do we want to consider doing those questions outside of this list or not?
No, I think that we'll add Vivek's question as question 3, and then if we have a sub question, that something that you would find very important to you, that you believe is an important question, then we can add, that would be a question we can add post and under another category, whatever you believe it is. But I'd like to add that to the main body and not keep it as a separate.
Yep. So we're going to add number 3, and we'll discuss further sub questions.
Yeah. If anybody has a question that they want to develop, it's just, again, as you, because once you ask it, well, obviously it'll be public. I know we have to, the whole point here is to be as open as possible about what we're going to ask. But, again, in an interview, if you're going to ask a question, just think about what it is. Take it from the lower part of the information you handed out. There's some good questions, and would it be a character question, a domain question, functional question, decision-making question, whatever category you want to put it in, just feel free to ask it. It's the whole point. Okay. So we got through those. I believe, soon, if you could retype them, redistribute them.
Yep, surely.
We have, let's just can everyone continue for, I'm just gonna look right now, next week at the same time? Is that possible?
You still have the executive session going on next.
Yep.
And okay.
Yep. That,
Bob, can I clarify one thing? We're replacing question 3, and then we have question 8 that might be about exploring domain knowledge. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that becomes question 1 effectively.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the opening, I gotcha. All right. So that one's covered by 1. So we're still at 7 questions with the opening. All right. Thank you so much.
yeah. So for next week, excuse me, the 13th, I could not do this time. I could do a more of an evening, either we could do in person or virtual meeting again. I don't know what works better for everybody, but I cannot do the same time next week.
Yeah, I can't either. I'm traveling next week, so I will be in Louisville through Thursday, but I could do an evening because I wouldn't be with client.
Okay, what would be your better time frame in evening, Ray? Could you do Wednesday evening?
I could do Wednesday evening.
I'll make it work. What time do you want?
Would you like to do 5, 6? I'm open to either.
5 works. 5 works.
5 work. Patty, was that a convenient time for you?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 on Friday, Wednesday the 13th would work for me.
Would you like to do it in person or online?
Online.
Online. Yeah, because
Okay.
Ray's out of town.
Yeah, I'm not coming. Yeah, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So I won't be coming in person.
okay. Okay, so that's our next scheduled meeting.
So sorry to interrupt. The 13th actually is on hold right now for a different meeting. So in the evening, it could be before that regular meeting, at like 5 maybe, or a different day would be ideal.
We have it at 5.
We're doing it at 5.
You think it'll be an hour?
Yeah.
I have the regular meeting at 6.
On the 13th? Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay, just want to check. Thanks.
Thanks, Erica.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I know long. We should be good. Those would be questions. We'll reprint them. Okay. Let's close this meeting
Wait,
and open the executive.
Yeah, and
You have the
Susan, can you
motion,
next
right?
time, can you share like a Word document or something so we could make edits and share with you?
Make edits to the,
To the questions, because I think you sent like a copy of like it was like a image file that you sent with us.
sure, I can send you that unless you just want, I'll, when I send it out draft, I'll send it in Word. That's fine. And Bob, you have the suggested motion to read on the screen, I think.
Okay. Suggested motion that RMLD General Manager Search Committee go into executive session to consider applicants by reviewing resumes and criteria for the general manager position and return to the regular session for sole purpose of adjournment. All those in favor? Second. All those in favor?
Ray, aye.
Vivek Soni, aye.
Patty, you have to say your name and say aye.
Patty, let me know. Aye.
All right, Bob Coulter, aye. Okay, hey, great. Okay, now we'll go over to the other executive session meeting.
Okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'm gonna pull things up and then I'll let you all in, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.